Hey everyone, welcome to today's live stream. I was just responding to an email and realized that the questions that I was answering are actually really common questions this time of year. And so I'm sure a lot of people who are buying kids have the same questions. So I decided to go ahead and hop on here and talk about this a little bit. So when you buy kids and you bring them home, you may be wondering what you need to feed them. Since they are growing, it is fine for them to have alfalfa hay because it has a high level of calcium and protein in it. So they need that because they're still growing really fast. And so they should have alfalfa hay instead of grass hay, especially if they're on pasture. So that a larger percentage of their diet will be the alfalfa hay. If they're not on pasture, then it could be a grass alfalfa mix. Hopefully, looks like I'm freezing. So hopefully it's going okay. Other than hay, the other thing that they need is, of course, minerals. And then, and you want a good goat mineral. We've got an article on the website about choosing goat minerals. And we have a chart on there that you can look at. So I'm not going to get too much into that because the minerals for kids and adults, the idea behind that is pretty much the same. It needs to be a free choice, loose, goat-only mineral, not sheep and goat. So as far as additional feed beyond the browse and grazing and hay that they're getting, the other thing that growing kids need is a 16% protein goat feed. And this could be medicated or not. So I did a whole separate video on medicated goat feed a while back and what it is and what it is not. A lot of people don't know what it's actually for. And it's to prevent coccidiosis. It prevents an overgrowth of coccidia, which causes coccidiosis. All goats have coccidia, and adults should not be given medicated feed. They don't need it. And also, I just cringe every time I hear of somebody feeding a milker medicated feed because it says right on the label it's not to be fed to goats producing milk for human consumption, because you're basically medicating yourself with a coccidia stat when you do that because it's in the milk. So the next thing is, so for kids, however, when kids get stressed, they are much more likely to have that normal coccidia turn into coccidiosis, because coccidia is a protozoa. It is not a worm. It's a protozoa, and it's a very opportunistic protozoa, meaning that if an animal is stressed, that it tends to get more, I'm having trouble concentrating because I keep freezing. So I really hope I'm not freezing in the live stream. I may have to redo this video. So when people buy baby goats for me, I always tell them that whether or not they get a coccidia, whether or not they get a medicated feed has more to do with them than with the baby goats. Now, in my case, I am not letting any kids go before they're 20 pounds. So if kids leave, and that's Nigerian dwarf, I want them to have milk until they are at least 20 pounds. So if people are selling kids that are 15 pounds or something, then first of all, I wouldn't do that. But if you brought home kids that are like 15 pounds, then they definitely need a coccidia stat because they're going to be way more likely to wind up with coccidiosis than a kid that is well nourished and has already reached 20 pounds and is more mature physically, and their immune system is more mature. So stress can cause a coccidia bloom. So if it's possible that if the kids get really stressed, that in 2 or 3 weeks, one or more of them could get diarrhea, which would be caused by an overgrowth of the coccidia, because as I said, they are an opportunistic protozoa that tends to multiply when an animal is stressed. And moving to a new home and weaning are both very stressful. So if the kids are properly nourished, this is much less likely to happen, but still not impossible. So I always tell people that if they tend to worry more, and if they're going to be upset if the kid gets diarrhea in 2 or 3 weeks, that it's a good idea to just buy a medicated feed so they don't have to worry about that. However, if they're pretty chill and if they understand, they're like, oh, okay, if the kid gets diarrhea in 2 or 3 weeks, I'll just get medicine to treat the coccidia. Then they don't need to necessarily buy a medicated feed. Now, if you do buy a medicated feed, this is a one-time purchase. One time, that's it. You buy one bag. When it is gone, it's gone. You really only need to feed it for about 3 weeks around the time that the kids are going through this stressful period. But if you're only getting 2 or 3 kids, obviously a bag's going to last longer to that, and that's fine. Just, finish it off, and then when it's gone, it's gone. You don't need to buy another bag of medicated feed. At that point, you can just buy a 16% protein goat feed and continue and, giving them like between a quarter to a half a cup twice a day until they are about half of their adult weight. And then you can wean them off of that goat feed. So hopefully that answers some questions. If you have any additional questions, be sure to post in the comment section below. And I hope I wasn't freezing as much as it looked like I was. Bye for now.